What's going on? Alex here, back with another episode of a CPA reacts to terrible tax advice. And today's terrible tax advice comes from the most reliable source for any sort of tax information, and that's TikTok. Now, I don't think this video was recorded as a joke, but it very may well have been because it is indeed the most terrible thing I've ever heard. But with that said, with no further ado, let's take a look at this TikTok video from Jon Dawson talking about tax advice.
If you're mad about Trump not paying taxes, if you're mad about Trump lowering taxes for the rich and the companies, listen, do you want to have those benefits? I'll tell you how to get them. Open up an LLC, limited liability company. But John, I don't have a business. Open up a lawn business that cuts your own lawn every week. Doesn't matter. Run some revenue through it. Pay yourself $20 a week to cut your lawn. Pay it through your company.
If you're setting up a company to pay yourself, if it's an LLC, it's a disregarded entity from an income tax perspective. So for income tax purposes, it doesn't exist. Now, imagine you're taking $20 out of your pocket and then paying it to your LLC that you own. When you go to a tax preparer, you're probably going to show that LLC is having earned $20, let's say, for the year. That tax preparer, if they don't ask additional questions, is going to assume that that revenue came from a third party, and they're going to include that as self-employment income for you. The end result is you're going to pay more taxes, whereas you could have avoided that altogether by not putting together this ridiculous scheme by having a company that does your lawn and paying that company to do it. Makes zero sense. This is absolutely terrible. Let's continue.
You have a home office, right? You do your taxes in your kitchen. You file paperwork in your kitchen. That's your home office.
Okay, let's address that point. You can't have a home office for business that doesn't exist. In this situation, what he's proposing is that you open an illegitimate business that has no basis from an income tax perspective. You're not advertising to outside clients. You're not out there doing the lawns of people in the neighborhood, people in your city or whatnot. You're simply setting up an entity to try to get a tax benefit. And with that, while if you had a legitimate business and you had a home office that you used exclusively for business purposes, that was your only place of business, meaning you didn't have an outside office, then you could potentially have a home office from a tax perspective and take those appropriate deductions that go along with that. So if you, let's say, use 10% of your residence exclusively for business purposes and you don't have an outside business location, meaning that home office is your primary business location, then you can take, let's say, 10% of the mortgage interest, 10% of the property taxes, 10% of the utilities, and so forth in many cases. So this can create quite a substantial deduction for you, but not when it's illegitimate in that it's connected to a business that substantially doesn't exist, except for the fact that you put it together to try to get some sort of crazy tax benefit. It's not going to work. So the LLC that you set up to do your own lawn and pay yourself, that's nonsense. The home office that's attached to that and all those deductions, that goes away as well because, again, you have to have an active trade or business to even consider any of this, which at the very beginning, we didn't even start off that way. So that's all off the table. Let's continue.
You got to have clothes to wear while you're mowing. That's your uniform.
Okay. That's not your uniform because, again, we don't have a business. So if you don't have a business, these uniform deductions have nowhere to go on the tax return. You've just wasted money printing uniforms for your lawn company that only does your lawn. Crazy. Again, I don't think this was recorded as a joke. It may have been, but let's have fun with it, right? We always take things very seriously here, so let's just have a gander at what else this genius has in mind for us.
This can go on and on and on. Guess what you do now? Part of your mortgage, you can write off. Part of your rent, if you're renting, you can write off. Your cell phone to take calls, write off. Your lawnmower, your car, write-offs.
Okay, so if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you know that none of the things that he talked about can be write-offs because it's not a legitimate business to begin with. It's not an active trade or business. So if it doesn't rise to that level from an income tax perspective, you can kiss a lot of these deductions absolutely goodbye. I don't know why he mentioned the car. So this business, by its description, is only doing your own lawn. So I don't know why the car would be involved in that at all. The lawnmower, unfortunately, not deductible because, again, it's not connected to a real trade or business. all of the expenses that he's outlined so far are absolutely illegitimate and would not help you from an income tax perspective. You'll simply waste your money and look very silly sitting in front of your tax preparer trying to explain this great scheme that you came up with. It's not going to pass muster. You're only going to have problems and a bunch of useless uniforms. But let's continue.
It's all cost of doing business. Open up your business
There isn't a business, so there is no cost of doing business, unfortunately.
bank account. File your taxes under an EIN rather than your social security number if you would like, or you can do it on your social, your choice. Well, you got to have a bathroom at your home office, right? So you got to write off some toilet paper because you got to make sure anybody that comes to your house for business can use the bathroom. Write your toilet paper off, your soap, maybe a case of water or 2 or 7.
Whoa, my mind's exploding. I can't take so much bad information so quickly. Everything he's outlined, again, it goes back to having a legitimate trade or business. Now, believe it or not, from an income tax perspective, an activity has to rise to that level. And what you have many times is individuals who engage in an activity that, let's say, involves photography, right? So someone's a photographer. They do one little photo shoot here, one little photo shoot there. They don't advertise. They don't actively work to get new clients. They don't work to expand the business, and they don't conduct the business in a manner that indicates a profit motive. So in that case, what can happen is you might actually end up in a situation where you have to declare the income from that hobby, which you'll be classified as from an income tax perspective, but your deductions will be severely limited, and in some cases, especially at the federal level, unavailable. So you get no deduction for your expenses if it's a hobby, whereas you have to report the income. So if it even gets to the point where this so-called activity can be looked at as a hobby, then you'll have generally income from that hobby, but you would not be able to deduct expenses. However, in this situation, you're providing these services to yourself and paying yourself, so all of this nonsense falls apart. Everything he said so far is absolute garbage, okay? So just keep that in mind. Let's continue, see if he has any more gems for us.
Write your toilet paper off, your soap, maybe a case of water or 2 or 7.
Okay, so you can also write your dog off because it provides protection. You could write off the local airport because it makes it more convenient to get to your house. This is total disaster, okay? I don't know where this person gets off providing tax advice, but you could see that he seems pretty convinced that this is all legitimate. So I wonder what his tax return looks like at the end of the year, and I would love to review it to see what kind of shenanigans are included on there. So let's see if there's anything else.
Look into why someone's not paying something before saying they should. Hope this helped.
Okay, so I don't know that helped, but at the end of the day, it's important to remember that there are legitimate deductions that can be applicable for businesses. You got your ordinary and necessary business expenses, and those have to do with the legitimate costs of running a business. So you have marketing expenses, you may have rent, you may have leases, outside contractors, employees, retirement benefits, things like that. A lot of leeway with regard to reducing your self-employment income. Aside from that, you can, as a business owner, decide in many cases the amount of retirement plan contributions that you want to make for yourself. Another huge benefit, because that's one lever that you can use to reduce your tax liability in a particular year. Aside from that, you can also choose what you do from a depreciation perspective. So you can accelerate depreciation, take things like Section 179 or bonus depreciation in a particular year, or you can choose to take depreciation over time if you'd like, and have those deductions be smaller every year, but nonetheless available in a future tax year when you might be subject to a higher income tax bracket, for example. So there are definitely tools available to mitigate tax liability, more so when you have a business than if you were an employee. But in this case, I don't think there's a single thing this guy said that is even halfway legitimate. But I'd be willing to bet that some people saw this and said, that's a great idea. Let me go ahead and put this together, where come tax time, it's brought to light that this is all house of cards and it does not belong on a tax return. So with that said, this is a little different than what I usually do, but hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. If you leave an interesting question, I may just answer it in a video just like this one. I love reading your comments. And with that said, hopefully this was helpful. Thanks for watching.